We're at it again. We got another Chatcast. This man's too highly caffeinated, and we need to let him get up and use some energy. So this is going to be the one where we take a break after this. That means nothing to you because a lot of times we film these all in one giant chunk. Right. We've been doing it for about an hour. Anyways. You don't need to know the behind the thing. Quit peeking behind a curtain.
Stop it.
You don't have a backstage
It's
pass.
not your business.
Get out of here. This is getting weird. I want to ask you, what are common ways that you resist growth?
Oof.
And so for me, usually it comes down to where I feel like I just talk myself out of needing to learn a thing, okay? Like I've been resisting growth and learning how to sight read music better this entire time. The entire time. As soon as I open my eyes on planet Earth is to as soon as I close them. I will be putting off sight reading music better. I can read music, I just can't do it very well, right? Not well enough to sight read to the degree that you would think that I should be able to, right? And that's an area where I resist, and I keep talking myself out of it. This won't be that useful. But really, there's moments where I was like, I kind of wish that I could. But that's why I want to get back into playing the keys, playing the piano. I figured that would really help inspire that. But anyways, from that, that's a way that I resist growth, where I just talk myself into thinking like, hey, this new skill, for instance, in regards to a skill, it's just not practical, right? By the way, side note, what I like so far on this is that I've noticed you combined the metaphysical part of you with the practical skill part, and then I separate them. I just noticed that when I was describing this, because then when I'm talking about the emotional pull, I don't really feel like I've had a moment where I stagnate that. Now, as a person that isn't usually prone to being the emotional one, even in this dynamic here, you would think that I would have the most resistance in growing emotionally, but I don't. I feel like that's an area, even though I feel that's the weaker part of my playing, I don't resist growth there because I think that I've done a pretty good job of recognizing that is the catalyst of, the music that I'm trying to do, even the metal. And so I would say maybe I resist nurturing the softer side, right? Since I tend to engage in music that's pretty aggressive and loud and punishing and driving, I think that I tend to neglect, but I don't do that by design. I don't willingly, at least, knowingly at least, put up resistance toward growth in the softer side of the emotion. Just for me as an artist. So, mainly what I do is I talk myself out of the practical skill, and then I accidentally ignore certain emotional expressions in my playing that ends up being detrimental. Now, lately I've been repairing all of that, but I digress. I'm going to pass it over to you. What are some ways or areas or things that you do to sabotage, to interrupt, to block your growth? What have you seen?
Mine, like, how I end up sabotaging my growth is almost just because what I get discouraged if trying to grow is becoming too difficult. Even when I plan it to be difficult, if it starts being more difficult than the difficult that I planned it to be, I start getting really discouraged, and then that pushes me into probably one of the most unhealthy, toxic reactions that you can have to something is just complete apathy, where I'm like, yeah, I know I need to do it. I don't even care anymore because it's stupid. And then I'm like, I know I should be doing this right now, but I don't want to because it's not fun. And it's almost like a toddler tantrum that my brain throws that pushes me away from growing or doing something difficult. And it's 100% for me. That's emotional. That's what drags me under and stops me from growing. And usually that's why I talked before about trying to build discipline, because sometimes I can drag that emotion with me to progress with discipline, because that's kind of like an unfeeling cog that just keeps moving, keeps spinning. But sometimes if it's strong enough, that feeling of discouragement, that I haven't even come close to even anything that resembled progress towards that goal. So I know. Maybe I can rationalize to myself sometimes that I'll pick it up later. Maybe it's something that, like when you, like, because, I played music too for a while. It's like you try and learn a song that's really hard, and you're like, maybe it's just my skill level's not there yet. I'll come back to it in a couple years. Or something like that. It's like, that's kind of how I feel. It's like, I'll either tell myself, yeah, I'm just not there yet. We'll put a bookmark here, and I'll come back to it later, and just never have. Or I'll just get so discouraged that I'm just like, I don't even care.
So similar. The self-sabotage seems to be similar, which is kind of like just procrastination.
Yeah.
I mean, we both kind of said the same thing. And you know what? I have a feeling that's going to be extremely common, even within the community as it builds. Even though right now it's just our parents. My kids have been watching us.
Really?
Yeah. Marie's been showing it to them, and they actually like it. And then Valerie doesn't quite understand that we're not actually here right now doing that. It so kind of confuses her. So I think that's really funny.
That is really funny.
But anyway, so that's what I'm noticing. So procrastination is kind of just like putting it off, like I'll do it later, or and that seems to be a thing that's just raw for creatives. One of the things that I think that we really need to be real with ourselves about, and as we wrap this up, is that I know that our job that we want is fun, right? But I think a thing that, not just us, but I think a thing that creatives just do to themselves is that as soon as it starts to feel like work, we bail. Like we dip. And I think that's our biggest problem. That's our biggest detriment.
Yeah.
Is that we dip.
And I heard somebody say something really interesting a while back where they said the problem is everybody thinks what they're striving for is happiness, but happiness is on the same token as like sadness. What you really want is that middle ground where you're content, where you understand that the balance between happiness and sadness is good and you can navigate both. If you're striving for happiness all the time, that's just as unhealthy as being sad all the time.
That's interesting.
I thought that was kind of cool.
That is. Well, anyways, as you can tell, we've exhausted this for now. Honestly, we could talk a long time about any topic.
Yeah.
But we try to keep these things like around 10 minutes or a little less.
Right.
Oh, man, me too. So with that being said, we're putting a plug on this one, but we're going to be back. You know the deal. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You know where to find us. We have to have these little chats on a Friday, and this one was on a Friday, and we'll see you next Friday. Peace.
I like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday.